Hello everyone, it's Tracy, and it's time for my July deck wrap-up, roundup, review, whatever you want to call it. July was a bit of a, I don't know, it was a weird month for me. I got completely off track with my normal routines. I didn't use as many decks as I normally do. It was just a really weird month. I did have some winners and losers in July, so let's just have a look at what I worked with. I normally go through the tarot decks and then do the oracle decks, but I did some pairings in July, and I do want to talk about the things that I paired together. So this is going to be a little bit more tarot and oracle together. I pulled out, well, I didn't pull out my Shadowscapes. I got a new copy of the Shadowscapes because when I was first starting to edge my decks, I got a little overzealous with a really cool purple shimmery marker, but was doing it, instead of doing it one card at a time, I was trying to do the whole deck, and that will make a huge mess out of your cards. So I finally got a new Shadowscapes because, you know, I could have used the old deck, but every time I looked at it, I was like, oh, look at that mess. Oh, look at what a mess I made. Oh, look at that mess. So I had to have a new one. I have gotten over my need to edge and trim everything. I just don't feel the need anymore. Occasionally, I will still edge a deck, but it's pretty rare anymore. Anyway, the Shadowscapes is an absolutely stunning, marvelous deck that reads beautifully. I am not going to deny that. It is an exquisite deck. I just wish it was twice as big. And I know everyone has said that. It's probably why I never picked it up before, because I always wanted to be able to see the images better. But I picked it up this month, and even with the tiny, I call them tiny, even with the small images, it read so beautifully. It was easy to read. It made sense. It was gorgeous spread out on the table. It's just a marvelous deck, and I love it. And to top it all off, this book, which came with my other Shadowscapes, I bought this thinking I was going to end up with the new cardstock, but I actually ended up with the pre-Line Strider cardstock, the old Llewellyn cardstock, which made me do backflips almost, because that's my favorite of their cardstock, is the one they were using before they were using that cardboardy stuff that you frequently find with the Line Strider, which I'm going to show you in a minute, and the Animal Totem. They came out about the same time, and they started using that cardstock. This is pre that, so I was like, yay, old cardstock. Anyway, beautiful, beautiful. I wish I had gotten the check edition. I saw it on eBay. It was out there. It cost about $35 plus, you know, another $10 to ship it. So it was kind of pricey. So I never pulled the trigger. And now you can't find the check version on eBay anymore because it is bigger. But I will continue to use this one because it is absolutely gorgeous. So let's, let me show you a shuffle with this old cardstock. It's not as thin as the new stuff like my Everyday Witch, which will bend completely backwards almost, the whole stack. It's just the perfect cardstock. Llewellyn, go back to this cardstock. Okay, so here we have the King of Pentacles. Isn't he marvelous? He has a dragon down at his feet. He's a tree, or he's part tree. So he's well grounded and rooted and stable, and has this coin on top of his head, little light things coming out of his hands, and the dragon protecting him and protecting his, you know, the legend of dragons protecting their treasure. Love that. Beautiful card. Now, the book has full page illustrations, but they're in black and white, which if they'd make the book in color, it would make the images easier to see. So there's our King of Pentacles. The King of Pentacles bears a seed in his hand. It gleams golden with an inner light, and it pulses as if it contains a heartbeat that speaks with a humble promise to sprout. The leaves strain forth to bask in that radiance. The branches offer ripe, honeyed fruits, each luscious globe swelling with tantalizing sweet juices. His branches strain upward like the proud tines of a stag. He is at once man and tree and dragon, all intertwined, interlocked, entangled. He is a king of the material world. This king is an enterprising individual, a man possessing of every now and then there's a word I've never seen before. Multifarious talents. Multifarious. He has the golden touch of Midas, gilding everything around him with a sumptuous gleam. When he lays his hand upon a venture, it's bound for success. When he sets his mind to an idea, it becomes polished brilliance. He is reliable and adept at what he does. He is a steady and solid support should you need someone to lean on. The eternal strength and stability of the trees is his to draw from. Roots spread far and deep, taking energy from the dark, loamy wells of the earth, from the caverns of earth guardians, from the lairs of dragons, and from the ancient stones and bones of the deep. With that stabilizing force, he stretches branches and arms and aspirations to the stars. He is an inspiration for success and still is generous and willing to share his wealth and fortune. Partake of the fruit he offers. He knows that wealth will be shared and shared again, and from those fruits new seeds will sprout and grow to be mighty trees. Poetry, beautiful. But I love this deck, and I love this book, and this is definitely in my keeper pile. With the Shadowscapes, I pulled out of my to-go box the Journey Oracle. I had probably a dozen decks in my to-go box that I had just put in there without actually trying. And I pulled out a couple of them this month, and this is one of them. And interestingly, they're both going back in the to-go box. This is a nice deck. The artwork, I do love the artwork. I think the artwork is gorgeous. When I got it, it's Schiffer. It was stuck together, and some of them where they stuck pulled. So actually this isn't even going to go. I'm not going to charge anybody for this deck. If somebody wants to buy another deck from me and wants this one as well, it's a gimme. It's going to go for free because of the damage to it. But the artwork is nice. It's all women. I like a little more balance. The guidebook is okay. Sometimes some of the cards are really good. Some of them are just eh. I just didn't connect with this deck. It didn't do anything particularly for me. Even though I think the artwork is gorgeous. It just isn't one for me. You can see it has these queens of the four suits of like playing cards. What this card says, people will seek you out because they know you'll tell them the truth. Well, that sort of sounds like a Chinese fortune cookie to me. The Queen of Spades represents truth and balance. By choosing this card today, you are reminded to always process and present information fairly and honestly. People can take you at your word. They respect you and what you have to say because you are eloquent and accurate in which reassures them. They know they can rely on you, and this is something to honor. That's a lovely message, but it doesn't always fit the situation where I was maybe asking a question or looking for guidance. So this deck is not going to be one that I continue to use. All right, let's move on to the Line Strider and the Hedge Witch Botanical Oracle, which I did use together only because they are created by the same creator who has very similar artwork. So let's start with the Line Strider. The Line Strider went into my to-go box 3 times, and I just kept seeing other people using it and thinking it was beautiful and pulling it out and trying it again and then putting it back at the to-go box. And this is the last time I'm pulling it out of the to-go box. It's not going back in the to-go box. You can see I have one of the early editions. It doesn't have the magnetic box, and it does have the more cardboardy cardstock that's thicker, which I don't mind this cardstock. I don't think it's as bad as everybody said it was. The artwork is beautiful. I just I couldn't read with this deck. This is not a deck for me. I think there's too much white space for me. I need a little bit more. I mean, the people look lackluster and a little dead to me. I mean, this Queen of, she looks sickly, I guess is the best word I can use to describe it. So the people just, they don't work for me, and then there are a lot of them that don't have people in them at all. And the book was nice. You know, the book was very nice. It talked about, you know, correspondences, birthdays, associated plants, which makes perfect sense now that we know that she's created a botanical oracle. Keywords, what it means in different kinds of readings. It's a very nice deck. It's just not a deck that worked for me. I have tried it 3 times now, and 3 strikes and you are out. This deck is going in my bye-bye pile. The Hedge Witch Botanical Oracle I did like a little bit better. It's the new Llewellyn with the little magnetic flippy box, so it's easier to get out. Has a lovely guide. Still, the insert, not real happy with the insert. This is the new Llewellyn cardstock, which is a little flimsier, but they are the exact same dimension as the Line Strider, so if you wanted to use them together, they work really well together. I think because there are no people in them, I can appreciate the images a little bit better, but at the same time, it's that half of it's black and white and half of it's in color. It's not my favorite. The book is really good if you are into studying botanicals and plants. It's a really great book. I am not. I don't do plants yet. I can barely have time to learn tarot. I'm not going to start learning the plants. If the next thing I would learn would be crystals. That's my next biggest passion. So I just decided I need to give this deck up too. I'm not going to use it. It's very pretty. It's got nice messages in the book. It's got really cool information about the plants themselves in the book, but I'm not going to use this deck. So I need to pass it on to someone else who will use it. 2 more decks that I use together, the Beautiful Creatures Tarot and Les Vampires, which I love Les Vampires. I knew I did, so I paired these 2 together intentionally. I'm not going to go into this deck. I think I've gone through it before. This is one of my favorite Oracle decks. So there you go, Lucy Cavendish, yay. This deck I got, well, it had been sort of on and off my wish list. It kept winning these awards by the Tarosophy group that Marcus Katz runs, and I never could understand why. You know, why is it won for the first edition and for the second edition? I don't get it. It's an expensive deck. As far as decks go, it's about $35. I saw it in my local witchy store, and I am much more apt to pay retail price at my witchy store because I do know I'm supporting a local business person. In my local witchy store, the lady who runs it, her name is Jen, and she works 6 days a week. No, she works 5 days a week. She works 5 days a week. But she runs that store basically all by herself. She is always in there. There is never anyone else in there. So she works hard, and I want to support her. So if I find a deck that has sort of been on my wish list at her shop, I will just buy it there because I want to support her local business. Anyway, enough of that rant. I saw this there, and so I picked it up. Well, I got it open. You know, it's Schiffer. It has the book, and it has the 2 stacks of cards. I got it open, and one of the stacks of cards, the corners were completely bashed in. So I do have to tell you, I sent an email to Schiffer and sent them, they never asked for pictures. They just asked for a list of the cards that were damaged. And once, it was pretty much the entire major arcana. Once you got past the majors, it was fine. I could have used it, but instead they just sent me a whole new deck. So now I actually have 2 of these. One of them that's damaged. I mean, it's damaged to the point where I'm not even going to give it away because you can't shuffle it properly. You just couldn't use it. But this one, it's it's really pretty. I mean, the purple edging is really pretty. The artwork, there are several that have an Alice in Wonderland theme to them. That in the book, there's no mention of Alice in Wonderland. I was hoping when I looked through these cards that I would get an explanation, you know, that maybe this was Marie Antoinette, and I would get an explanation of why Marie Antoinette was chosen for the Seven of Cups with the keyword of delusion. That would have made sense to me, but it's not. It's just pretty much standard meanings, what the card means. The court cards are all astrological, which is nice, but one thing I will say is the cardstock is very nice. It's matte and feels fabulous and has a really lovely weight. Clearly a collection of fairy tale heroines, but we get no explanation in the book that includes the fairy tale heroines. Five of Swords, defeat. This exact same, this is Alice from Alice in Wonderland. She's painting the roses red. And this exact same image was used in the Alice Oracle that recently came out from Lucy Cavendish and Jasmine Beckett Griffith. So I should have listened to my intuition and said this is not a deck for me. I get nothing from the images. They don't tell the story that the keyword tells. I mean, Nine of Cups, satisfaction. She looks very unhappy because all of Jasmine Beckett Griffith's little faces look unhappy. Nine of Pentacles, reward. Again, she's very unhappy. Very unhappy. Celebration. She looks a little less unhappy than the rest. So yeah, this deck just isn't going to work for me. Maybe it'll work for somebody else. It does. It's got beautiful, you know, her artwork. You know, I think I don't like her artwork, and I think I never have. What I do like is Lucy Cavendish's books, which is why I have some of Jasmine Beckett Griffith's artwork. Without Lucy Cavendish's book, I'm not interested. And with all of this book here, you'd think that there would be something that would connect with me, but it doesn't. One thing it does have, it has a lot of spreads. There are a lot of spreads, a lot of big spreads. And we do have some astrology. But no, this is just not a deck for me. I had heard several people say that this was a really great deck, and so I decided to go ahead and give this one a try. I liked it better than the Beautiful Creatures Tarot. This was not a good month for me. I don't dislike this deck. There's nothing wrong with this deck. It's a fine deck. I don't think it's enough to stay in. It's unique enough or says enough that's different or connects with me enough to stay in my collection. It's a fine deck. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this deck. It would be a fabulous deck for a beginner because this book is very much aimed at a beginner. Barbara Moore, you know, Barbara Moore writes great guidebooks, but this one in particular, I think they thought, oh, the manga aspect is going to catch the eye of some people who've never touched tarot before, so let's make sure we write a very beginner-friendly guidebook, and they did, and I think it works really well. I just don't think that this is a deck for me. And this is the new Llewellyn cardstock, which is not my favorite. It's, you know, it's very much a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. Nice deck, but I am going to put it in the to-go pile. Lest you think that I didn't like any of the decks I used this month, that is absolutely not true. I used these two decks together, the Rebel deck and the Bob Ross playing cards. I'm not a real big fan of swear words. I think that for me, you know, other people can swear all they want. I'm not going to get with anybody's right to use whatever language they want to. But for me, I think I can find other ways to express myself that don't use those words. But that being said, I love this deck. I really love the deck. I love the messages that it sends. You know, I just basically in my head, I take out the swear words. Just make better choices. Make better choices, stupid. If you're angry at where you are, then stop taking yourself there. Yeah, they're great messages. And I found that when they don't offend me. The language doesn't offend me or anything. It's just that when I wrote in my journal about these cards, I took out the swear words because I just didn't think they were necessary. But I used this deck with this deck, which is the ultimate feel-good, happy deck, and they were so good together. You can do anything you want to do. You can do anything you want to do. This is your world. Let's get crazy. What the heck? Take a 2-inch brush. This is your bravery test. 2-inch brushes are hard to paint with. And they were so great together. I would pull something like, you need a good cry. However you think it should be, that's exactly how it should be. So I love these decks, and I'm going to keep these decks. This Rebel deck is a bit slippery. It tended to get away from me sometimes, but I do enjoy the messages, even though I understand, you know, if you did this without the swear words, it would not be the same deck. It would not have the impact that it has. It would not get the attention that it has gotten. So I kind of understand the need for the swear words. The last deck that I worked with this month was the Prairie Tarot, a tarot of the American West. This is by Robin Attor. He also did the Attor Tarot. He did the International Icon Tarot. The only thing I can find out about him on the internet is his LinkedIn page. The tarot is not his only thing. He does graphic design and all kinds of other stuff. I love this deck. It's pretty much a Rider-Waite clone, which I like, but it also has a Jackalope card. But it has a slightly different view of the Rider-Waite simply because it's set in the Old West. I really love this deck. It is occasionally difficult to read. That says King, and then it says King upside down, so if you have a reversal. There's no guidebook, which is good and bad. Sometimes I love a good guidebook. I love to understand the artist's thinking process and what was going on. But at the same time, when I don't have a guidebook, that Ten of Swords is fabulous. When I don't have a guidebook, I am forced to use my own intuition more. So it's nice to sometimes not have a guidebook. So there you go, the Prairie Tarot, definitely a keeper. Gonna keep that one around. So thanks everyone for watching so much, and have a lovely, lovely day.